Have you ever been looking at a paper and you see that there's this weird like green dot next to people's name that says ID? Well, here's what that is. It's called an ORCiD, or Open Researcher and Contributor ID. And it's a unique 16-digit identification code that scientists use in addition to using their name to associate with their work. This avoids the same name confusion when you have lots of people with the same name. It also avoids the problem of if people change their name, maybe they get married, change their last name. Maybe they just decide to change their name for some other reason. Maybe they swap institutions. They no longer have the same contact info. All of those problems that you might have come across or will come across throughout your career. The ORCiD tries to kind of get around those problems. It's a completely free thing. You do not need to have any publications yet in order to register for one. You can just go to ORCiD's website and basically for researchers, and it'll tell you all about how you can do this, and you can just register really easily. You'll use this when you do things like post a preprint, and you can see it shows up here. You'll do things then that also when you publish a publication. So sometimes the ORCiDs are hidden a little more. So you can see here, if you click on my name on the actual publish form, you can see it's right down here. Note too that my ORCiD ends with an X. That is not a problem. So basically that last number is just a checksum. It's to make sure that the rest of the numbers are okay and stuff. The X is for 10. It's a 1 through 10 randomization, but because 10 is 2 digits, it's an X. And so, yeah, it's weird. It looks like it's a placeholder, but it's really not. That's actually your number. And if that's your number, great. Okay, so you don't just have a number associated with your name, though. You also have a page. So you saw that if you click on the ORCiD, so the ORCiD is also like a link. I mean, like typically when you see the ORCiD of someone, it's as a hyperlink, and you can actually go to that person's public profile. Now, you have the control over what you want to put on your profile, what you want people to see. If you enter your ORCiD information when you're submitting a paper, when you're applying for a grant, these sorts of things, it'll automatically show up in your ORCiD profile. You can also add things manually, or because here I had like a preprint and a publication, I was able to combine those into one reference. So there are lots of things that you can do to kind of control what people see. You can add your employment, you can add contact information, links. So I put my bumbling biochemist blog, education, employment. So all these various things. When you're on a person's paper and you see that they have an ID, all you have to do is you have to click on that ID and it'll take you to their profile. And here, for example, you're looking at the profile of Dr. Lemore Joshua Tor, who was the scientist in whose lab I did my grad school research. And so you'll see that you can see where she's employed, where she went to school, professional activities. So you can see she has a lot more on here. And that's not just because she is a lot more established than me and she has all these research papers, but she also has all these things listed on sort of committees and various things. I'm definitely not on as many things as she is or have as many affiliations, but I could go ahead and go into the professional activities part of mine and add things like my membership in the American Chemical Society and the American Society for Biology, for Biochemistry and Molecular Biology. Man, you'd think after saying it so many times, I would be able to say it without problem, but yeah, the ASBMB. So go ahead and if you don't have one already, get an ORCiD. It is totally free. This is a nonprofit global organization. You can learn more about them on their website, their mission, their values. So they started in 2012, and so they actually have like a kind of a 10-year update that they did in 2022, kind of talking about their history. It's really interesting. Just a group of people that wanted to get around that problem with the name confusion, the losing your changing affiliations, changing your name, all of those problems that come about when all you have is a name to go on. So go ahead and get your ORCiD and check out other people's ORCiDs. It's really taken off. So I think it's one of those things that's kind of like, because it only started in 2012, a lot of people don't have one yet, or like the older papers, they're not going to have them. You can like retroactively add them and things, but it's difficult. Or I don't know, it's more difficult. But basically, I think it's one of those things that's kind of going to be the norm moving forward. That for me, for example, I learned about it when in undergrad when I was applying for a grant. They request like said if you had an orchid, put it in here. And so I'm like, well, what's an orchid? And so I looked into it. I'm like, oh, that's cool. I want to get one. So that was 2015. So it was only a few years in. So I guess I'm a kind of early adopter on this. But I'm definitely a big fan. And now I have this number that will follow me around throughout my life. And I can also update my profile page throughout my life. And I think that a lot of sort of grant places as well as publications and things, they're now asking for people's orchids when they go to publish, when they go to do these sorts of things. So I think it's going to be kind of like the norm moving forward. So go ahead and get yours now. And I'm not being paid by them or anything like this. They're just a global nonprofit trying to help connect researchers around the world and avoid all that confusion. So hope that helped